South Africa will take on Bangladesh in a much awaited T20 clash in the World Cup. South Africa looking to get closer and closer to getting that spot cemented for the semi-finals. Hopefully they can keep that spot in second place and put on a good show against Bangladesh. Now they're coming off a victory that they clinched thanks to David Miller and Kagiso Rabada's heroics. And we are going to be looking from a South African perspective for a more clinical batting performance from the boys. The bowlers have been impressive. Ultimately, we know that. And I think once again, the bowlers are going to play their part in this particular match. If you win the toss in this particular wicket, you want to chase. I think you have to put the team under pressure early on and then chase. And I think South Africa will have to do what they need to do to get over the line and trust in their bowlers 100%. Now, we do know that England have shown us that it doesn't matter what wickets they play on, they are going to go and bully teams. One of their players will always step up. And Josh Butler did it today on the same wicket that we played against Sri Lanka in Sharjah and scored 100. So it's crazy that for some players the wickets just don't look slow at all. And other wickets, and other games, it just looks like the wicket is slow and players are struggling. So I have to give a shout out to Josh Butler for that particular performance. It was world class. And it's making me a little bit scared going into the England game because South Africa need to win that game as well to make sure that they go through. I really thought that today would be the day that England lose their first game, but it's not looking that way currently. So unfortunately, that's not the way to do it. So I'm going to have a panel on the show today as well. We are going to discuss this particular game, and we have to look at the stats as well. So we have a guy that's going to give us a little bit of his stats. I've got a little bit of pre-recorded videos that he sent us because he can't make it because he's at work. It's only 10 a.m. there by him right now in America. So he gave us a couple of clips that we can use on the show from his thoughts of it as well. We've got also Hano waiting for us, and we've got Ravi that will be joining us too on this particular show. So it's something that we're going to have to wait and see. Obviously, we're going to have to wait and see till the Sri Lanka game completes to see if they can maybe still get over the line or whatever the case may be. But I highly doubt it. I know I'm being a little bit maybe underestimating Sri Lanka, of course, over here, that they're going to get over. Others think currently England, when they get into positions like this, they just finish off the game. So, but we still have to wait and see. So you guys can obviously update us if we're still live. You can update us about how that game is going, of course. But let's get into the preview of the game between South Africa and Bangladesh. And let's get to chatting about this. And particularly, let's go deep. Let's think about the lineups. Let's think about the strategy that South Africa have to do against Bangladesh, etc. And let's start discussing what is going to be happening. So if you guys are new to this channel, I would like you to smash the like button, please. And also comment in the comment section and subscribe to this channel and click the notification bell. But the main thing that you guys have to do is download Cricket Fanatics magazine monthly. Every single issue is 100% free in the back end. So you can go in, subscribe, all issues free, including the latest issue. So the link is in the description and as well in the eye. If you click the eye after this video has gone live. So let's get into today's preview, guys. I'm excited to hear what you guys have to say in the comment section too. Hey guys, welcome to Cricket Fanatics magazine. This is your preview show. I'm your host, Khalid, and this is the show where we talk about everything that has to do between South Africa and Bangladesh in the T20 World Cup. So let's start off this, guys, with a little bit of a discussion when it comes to the ground that we are playing at, because I think we have to first start there to be able to identify how we should approach this particular game and who should be in our lineup. And I think who should be in our lineup is probably one of the things that people like to talk about. It's probably the most controversial section of every single team. So I'm just going to read out to you some of the scores that have been scored in this particular World Cup so far. So we had at this particular ground, of course. So we had Afghanistan that scored 160 for 5 against Namibia. And then we've had the likes of Afghanistan, and then we've got the likes of I'm just looking through the whole list here, guys. It's a long list, and I have to make sure that I'm finding the correct ones. We've also had November. A lot of the other scores have been below par. So when I look at the recent scores at the ground, the last one is obviously was Namibia, and then I think the average on the ground is about 128 actually. So it's quite low. If you're thinking about this particular ground, I'm going to look at it a little bit more in depth at the moment when I'm looking at um, Abu Dhabi. You'll see Abu Dhabi is right on top with 166 for 4 from Netherlands versus Namibia as well in Abu Dhabi, and then you have the Netherlands versus then you have Afghanistan versus Namibia, which is 160 for 5. And then I can go a little bit down. You have to go further down to find another top total. And the funny thing is that apart from those two scores, you have to go right down to the bottom of the list to find Australia versus South Africa in Abu Dhabi, which is 121 for 5. South Africa, 118 for 9, of course, is the next. And then 115 for 6, Namibia. And when you look right at the bottom of the list is all the rest of the games, all 100, under 100. So if you work that out and you find out how much these players have scored in Abu Dhabi, you'll know that it is quite low. So I'm going to play a little clip from Abai that gave us a little bit of a stats update about this particular game.
Okay, so this match will be in Abu Dhabi, and if we go back and look at all of the rest of the group stage games that have been held on this ground, the average score of a team batting first is 128. And if we see another low-scoring contest between Bangladesh and South Africa, we shouldn't be too surprised, because that's kind of been the trend for teams batting first on this ground, and it's pretty spin-conducive as well. And on the whole, not very many players across a lot of the teams have particularly enjoyed playing spin.
So that's what I had to say. So guys, let's start off over there. What are you expecting at this particular ground? Obviously, it seems like it's going to be slow. It seems like it's going to be a low-scoring ground, apart from those other two ones that I've read out already at the top that I struggled to read out because I was trying to look at the long list. But what is your thoughts? Let's start with Ravi and then go to Hano. Who do you think South Africa should go with on this particular ground? Who do you think is going to stand out?
Yeah, so thanks, Khalid. Good evening to you, both of you gentlemen, and South Africa and the rest of the world for that matter. 128, if that's the past score or in the midst of like 100 to 120, it sounds like the wicket has favored spin significantly. So the question I had, coming onto the show is whether or not South Africa will take the gamble or throw in the dice and bring in 3 spinners. Because what seems to be happening now is that they're going with 2 specialist spinners, that being you've got Shamsi and obviously Maharaj, and then you've got Markram. I don't know why they insist on doing this, but they like opening the bowling with this guy. So, and I've always said this, I've always gone on the side of caution to not bowl Markram, yet they insist on opening with him from time to time, and they did that in the West Indies. They did that now in the last game against Sri Lanka. So there's 2 options really you could go with. One, you can actually take a gamble, drop one member of the batting order, and bring in 3 spinners, with 14 being the 3rd spinner in that roster. But knowing our selectors all too well, they will more than likely go on the side of caution and continue with the same team. So the exact same team we play against Sri Lanka will more than likely take the field tomorrow. That's my view. My gut's telling me that. But if they really wanted to experiment, and they would need to go the route of spinners, get a specialist spinner in, and bring in the likes of 14 in addition to Maharaj and Shamsi. That's my 5 cents around that.
Yeah, I know that's something actually I wanted to see against Australia. I wanted to see them try that and obviously risk it a little bit over there, maybe having the extra spinner, because I was obviously hoping that our batters would be up for that particular game and come out flying, and then our top six at least would bat excellently. But unfortunately, that didn't necessarily happen. When it comes to that, it's obviously South Africa is going to have to play against spin as well, and they're also going to have to marshal Sri Lanka's spinners. I mean, Bangladesh's spinners. We're lucky though that Shakib Al Hassan, and unfortunately, I hope he gets well soon, has pulled up with an injury, a little hamstring. So he's the best player in the tournament from their part, from Bangladesh's point of view. I think he was the highest wicket taker for quite some time in the tournament as well. So he's been having a great time in the World Cup, and unfortunately, he's injured. So South Africa don't have to face him, and that's a massive blow for Bangladesh. Would you toy with the batting lineup, Pano? Because we saw South Africa bring in Reza Hendricks in place of Klaasen, and it did throw the balance off a little bit. I mean, Aditya was on the show and he spoke about that a little bit on our review show. He felt that they should have just kept Klaasen because now you're pushing Bavuma further down the order. I mean, what are your thoughts on the lineup? Do we keep Riza, or do we go with Heinrich for this particular match? Just on mute,
Uh,
bro. Yeah.
okay, sure. Thank you very much, Khalid. I think it was worth a shot to give Riza another a tryout for the previous match. And as much as I am a fan of Riza, that shouldn't compromise common sense with regards to how the experiments have worked off late, especially during tough situations. Now, this is nothing towards Klaasen or Riza specifically, but also it encompasses the balance, as you've mentioned, the balance and, of course, the positioning of Temba, who is a player who likes to rotate the strike and is not the kind of player like Miller who can come down the order and be in from the start. So I think one should overlap the individual a little bit in this situation where the balance and Temba Bavuma's positioning comes into place. Um, I'd like to see Klaasen back. Klaasen is the type of player that can keep the batting rotating, but also can hit the boundaries at the same time. You never feel like he is holding the other batsman back. And that's not saying the opposite is true when it comes down to Temba. But Temba is like a Jacques Kallis who just simply is not your 5, 6, or 7 type of player. He needs
Mm.
to be up the order, and he's a confidence player in terms of when he understands exactly how the pitch is working, then he's at his best. And to force the issue beforehand is normally a bit of a gamble. It's not impossible for him to perform then, but you're unlikely to get a probability of high results then. With regards to the spinners, Khalid, um, I was pleasantly surprised with how it panned out the little experiment with Markram. I see his average is around 20 or just over 20, and his strike rate is just under 20 in the 16 overs that he did bowl. And Markram seems to be a player for the occasion. If you see how he excels, not just with the batting at times, but also how he does his fielding. He's a player that has the ability to turn matches around, and he would have thought about each and every single ball if he opens the bowling up front. Um, I do not think we should force him to bowl much longer than 2 overs. Three might be a stretch. So, with the qualification of our short batting lineup, where we nearly were found wanting with Kagiso Rabada doing a rescue effort for us, I don't see us getting an extra spinner in, but going with a 2 or a maximum, maybe 2 or 3 overs with Markram, and then banking on Keshav and Shamsi to do the business for us. And with regards to our batting, when it is a low scoring match, I think lessons would have been learned in terms of a little bit more patience and understanding that you need to give respect to the wicket and to the bowler, whether he has a big name or not. And then we should be fine, because the confidence of Bangladesh must be very low with the news of their best player in history not being available. He is spiritually and in all other aspects, uh, the hope of Bangladesh for any silverware. And I think we should stick to our guns and we should have an emphatic victory, but not by arriving thinking that we have to earn that type of. We have to respect the opposition first, and then we earn the victory with a massive net run rate to go into the England match.
I think that is also clinical. Welcome to the show, Werner. I'm going to go straight to you and put all the pressure on you now. So the question over here is in the batting lineup. I feel is Risa Hendricks or Heinrich Klaasen. Now, if you bring Heinrich Klaasen in, then Miller's batting too low. Some people may say. If you bring in Risa Hendricks in, then Temba gets pushed down the order and maybe goes too low. So, from your perspective, what should happen from South Africa's point of view? I know that for me personally, I would love to see maybe Aiden open up the batting with Quinton. That would be something excellent I would like to see. And then maybe having the likes of Bavuma at 3. What is your thoughts on this particular game? How should South Africa put together their batting lineup?
I personally think we should go back to Klaasen instead of Risa. Not that Risa has done much wrong, but it does throw the whole balance off. But in saying that, if Klaasen comes in, he needs to bat below Miller. Miller needs to come in at 5 and Klaasen comes in at 6. There's no way that he should be batting ahead of Miller in his lineup. So if Risa is playing, Miller is coming in at 6 in any case. So swapping Klaasen in, you can bat Klaasen at 6. I don't think you can really bat Risa at 6, or it would just be too low down. It would definitely struggle. I mean, I love Markram opening, but I think in this current setup with Bavuma playing, he needs to bat up in the power play. He needs to use that to his advantage. Bavuma and Quinny did have a good opening partnership the last time we played. Was it England? I believe they were quite effective. So we need Bavuma to find that kind of form and fluency, and then it's fine. And you can have Rassi coming at 3 and Markram at 4. He has done he's done reasonably well at 4, but I think now playing Hendricks is pushing Markram down to 5, and he has been our best batsman over the last few months. So having him coming in at 5 with a few overs left, or coming in after we've had 3 quick wickets, it's really not ideal. So he shouldn't be batting outside the top 5, and Miller shouldn't be batting any lower than 5. So I would go back to Klaasen, even if he isn't in great form. I know he isn't. But if he can come in at 6 and hit 2 sixes in 5 balls, I don't know if he can, but he's had that ability in the past to do that. So, and at the ground, like, let's say not this game, the next game is a Sharjah again against England. It's a short boundary, so he doesn't even have to hit the middle of the bat. He is powerful enough that he can mistime the ball for 6 on that ground. And 2 sixes at Sharjah can make all the difference in a low score. So that's the way I would go personally. Nothing against Risa. I think he's a great batsman. But I think having Risa and Rassi and Markram and Bavuma all cluttered in the middle, and then asking Miller to come in at 6 with 2 overs to go, hoping that he comes off immediately is too much.
Ravi, I'm going to come back to you again, because what concerns me is that we've been speaking about it pre-World Cup for so many months. And Werner, we've had plenty of discussions as well. And I know on a couple of streams, you also mentioned that finisher role. Now, Boucher has picked, I know Heinrich Klaasen as the finisher. That's what we thought initially, but the way he's batting is not like that. He's been batting quite slowly, actually, in recent times. He hasn't been in the best of form. So we kind of just throwing Heinrich Klaasen in there. I don't know as maybe what his role is in the team. I still don't understand, because he doesn't come in from ball 1 and hit like Miller can. Miller is the better at doing that out of the two, but he hasn't been batting really well even when he's batting above Miller either. So it's kind of difficult, Ravi, when I think about what his role is in the team. I don't understand it. It's almost like we're just throwing him in there so we can have the balance right. But we know that he's going to bat above Miller, which shouldn't happen. Miller should be coming up higher. I strongly believe that. I feel that sometimes they need to even bring in Miller before Rassie at some points in certain instances in the game. They need to. I want to see South Africa be a little bit more adaptable with their batting lineup, and that's how I thought they're going to approach this. That they're going to be a little bit more adaptable when they think about situations and match situations.
But the thing is, we can only be adaptable if we've got the platform laid. Our openers haven't been doing that for us. Our top three need to lay a platform, then we can be adaptable. If we are only one down at over 14, then send in Miller. But at this stage, we're constantly losing wickets. So that's making it difficult to change things up. So they're sticking with the pattern. But if we can actually lay a platform for a change, then we can switch it up.
100%. So Ravi, what's your thoughts? Like, I mean, both Riza and Heinrich, you're taking a risk either way. Would you even consider, and I know this is very left field, would you even consider dropping him completely, Heinrich, and bringing in the extra spinner and then batting Dwayne maybe at 6? Is that even an option or ludicrous completely? Seeing that Kagiso Rabada is our new all-rounder,
Yeah, Kagiso's actually bailed us out more than Miller and Klaasen in the last couple of games, actually. No, not Miller, sorry, Klaasen and Pretorius for that matter. No, so I think, Khalid, coming back to the original point that Abai made around the actual net score on this ground, it sounds like it's going to be a low-scoring game either way, whoever it is you put out there. So ideally, you want to put your best batsman forward. I would like to see, in principle, I'd like to see Markram face more overs. I'd like to see Miller face more overs. I want to see the guys that are susceptible in terms of keeping their wicket as opposed to losing their wicket early on. In saying that, I think there is a huge advantage. We've seen with, I think on the very same ground, the West Indies play Bangladesh, and we've had some guys that are the habitual finishers that do very well. I think Pollard and Holder in that particular innings managed to hit at least another 18 to 20 odd runs in the last 2 overs to go, which made a monumental difference in terms of the match because West Indies ended up winning by 3 runs. So the finisher role is absolutely critical. I agree that keeping Miller at 6 is absolutely pointless. He needed to go up the order for some time now. And you kind of need that guy to sort of play a supporting act with Miller to actually keep the run rate going at a superb level as well. And again, conversely, we're talking about whether or not Riza Hendricks upsets the balance of the team. Same principle applies. I wouldn't put Riza Hendricks in any other position other than an opener, right? I'm happy for Markram to be sitting at the 3 or 4 threshold. That's perfect in terms of the balance of the team. But Riza Hendricks is no point. I've seen some guys in the comments saying Riza at 6. I mean, what are we doing here? It's not going to make any sense whatsoever. So I think whatever side gets chosen tomorrow, we need to consider 2 principles. One, the finishing role. And I think the fact that the pressure is on Miller was significant on Saturday, and the fact that Rabada played almost like a de facto finishing role with him actually eased off the pressure a little bit of Miller, and as a result, he was able to flourish on the night. And I think we need to have more guys. Whoever comes in at 6, so after Miller, in principle, if Miller comes in at 5, whoever comes in at 6 or 7 needs to take that off. And I've said this again. I've said this before. I say this again. I don't trust Pretorius at the bat. It hasn't come off, unfortunately, as of late. But who knows? Tomorrow, we might see a completely different picture from him in terms of a performance, at least. But I think, and sorry, I mentioned there are two things that we need to look out for. So obviously the finishing role, and then the most important thing is whomever's opening tomorrow needs to get off to the best possible start. And your best batsmen need to play as many balls as possible because it's going to be very difficult to get boundaries on that particular wicket. So the power play is going to be absolutely critical. 2 fielders out, as we know, in the first 6. So those openers, whomever they decide, if they decide to do a last-minute shuffle, I certainly hope they don't do that. But if they decide to go with Hendricks and Quinton de Kock, they need to have a game plan in terms of what they need to be in the first 6. the game plan should also be that at least the cock, for the very least, needs to survive the power play and carry them over from over 7 onwards.
Mm-hmm. So I'm just going to play a Baz clip, what he had to say about SA. He sent us a clip in, so I'm going
Now,
to play
from a
that
South
one
African
right now,
perspective, I wouldn't expect them to change their playing 11. In fact, it's probably best to retain a winning combination. Another player in the spotlight, this time a bowler, I'd have to say is Keshav Maharaj. He did not bowl that well against Sri Lanka, and he will look to bounce back. He's already had a tremendous start to his T20 international career. This was just one bad game last time round, but you'd expect him and Tabraiz Shamsi to spearhead the spin unit and look to take wickets. I'd probably feel that Shamsi is more of the wicket-taking kind of guy, while Maharaj is more of the containing bowler who restricts the flow of runs. But at the same time, everyone will have their role to play, and what matters is everyone puts together strong contributions. In fact, we saw last game, even though it wasn't the most fluent performance at all, multiple people contributed well. Bavuma did well, Miller did well, Rabada did well with the bat, that is. Andrik Nortje bowled well. Tabraiz Shamsi was excellent. So I think the team effort trend should continue. In fact, it's very good that South Africa aren't relying on one or two guys to quote unquote carry the team and win games, because you can't expect that to happen 100% of the time. But with 2 consecutive wins, I'd like to think that South Africa are heading into this game with the spring in their step, more confidence, and the urge to just keep the momentum going, because compared to their final game against England, this is more of their scoring opportunity and make it more likely to qualify for the semis.
So what I want to ask you there, Hanno, is what would you be more happy with? Would you be more happy with a complete batting performance? Everybody gets like a 30 or 25-30, and we get that type of top 6 performance ultimately and put on a decent total. It depends, obviously, if we set or we chase, of course. Or would you prefer to see the guys that have been off form put on a massive performance, get a good score on the board, and take confidence into that England game? What would satisfy you more as a Proteas fan?
I think it's the right question to ask, because when it comes to these particular wickets, and we look at South Africa's batting lineup, it's not just one that's not the longest, it's also one that has the most question marks with regards to, let's say, contender type of teams on how to play spin. So that brings us actually back to rather wanting to see a batting lineup that is able to play spin in a way that we still need to convince, and then also stepping up which type of players have shown to bring in the goods when that happens. We see David Miller do that. We see Aiden Markram do that. We see Tabraiz Shamsi do that. Now, in terms of playing spin, who's going to do that? And I also see in the comment section, Arvind was mentioning how he saw Heinrich Klaasen. He's able to play the wrist spinners much better than anybody else in the squad, in particular to Shahal when he was playing in his best, for an example. I tend to agree with that when I try to remember how Riza is currently playing. The soft hands is not something which he is yet capable of doing, and we're only starting to see Aiden Markram doing that now. It just doesn't happen overnight. So I believe, into answering you directly, is to say I'd like to see a batting performance where we are convincing on the spinning, playing the spinners well, because it tends to become more and more a tournament where the spinners have the upper hand, and you need to counter that with batting capability that is able to manage and perhaps exceed that in order to win this cup. Add to that the big match temperament players, and I think we are on the right path of the right balance. So I think for me it underlines the fact that Heinrich Klaasen needs to come in, and perhaps just after Miller moving a slot up.
So Vern, I'm going to come back to you. Let's get your predictions for this particular match. South Africa obviously would want to really destroy Bangladesh, and like without Shakib Al Hassan in the team, they would really want to take advantage of that and really get their net run rate really high, so that their chances of going through is much higher. Because I think this is going to obviously go to the wire. Australia could possibly still lose to West Indies. That is it's a high possibility. West Indies are the type of team that will just decide to rock up on a day and just smash you just for the sake of it. So that's one of those type of teams. So your thoughts, what do you feel South Africa will do in this particular match?
Yeah, no, I agree. I want us to win convincingly. Definitely, it's a big blow to Bangladesh without Shakib there. I just like to see us stamp our authority with the bat this game. We haven't yet really had the chance to do that. The game against West Indies, Markram really did. But I'd like to see our top order really fire and Quinny get back into form. Because if Quinny gets into form, heading into the semis, if we get there, then we're a whole different team. Quinny leading from the front with destructive power play changes our whole setup with the bat. So that's what I'd like to see. I'd like to see our openers really set the platform in this game, Rasi as well. And then I'd like to see our middle order fire. I want us to be less conservative in this game. I know we're saying it's a slow pitch, but when I watched the IPL, Abu Dhabi was the one pitch where the teams were scoring high scores. Rajasthan chased 190 at that venue. So while it's been low scores, it's been mostly because it's been smaller teams, and then our poor performance against Australia, which wasn't due to the pitch. It was just poor batting. So I think we shouldn't read too much into the low scores that have been scored there, and or go in with the mindset that we should be aiming at 130, 140 and settle for that. We should be aiming at 160, 170 if we are batting first. So I just want us to be less conservative and be a bit more attacking in the power play. We haven't really attacked the power play much. So I'd like to see us go on the front foot from the start and not hold back against Bangladesh.
Ravi?
Okay, there's that mute button. Yeah, look, I agree. I think Veron is right. You need to go with a positive mindset. Don't subscribe too much to the statistics. Otherwise, all you're going to be doing is reading statistics and hoping for the best. I think whomever it is they select, I've said this before, whether they go with Klaassen or they want to stick with Riza, it really doesn't matter at the end of the day. I think they just, whomever it is they bring on board, the mindset needs to be positive. They need to get as high a run rate in their power play. I think if you get on top of the Bangladeshis, assuming we win the toss, which is very rare these days, if we get on top of the Bangladeshis, hopefully the best result will ensue. I will say this though, while I endorse the fact that we need to go with a positive mindset, I've learned already that we should never assume the side is down because a key player is out. This is T20 cricket. It's a game of fine margins. Things could easily go pear-shaped very quickly. We've seen that in a number of matches thus far. And yeah, I just want the Bangladeshi fans that are watching the Cricket Fanatics channel to know that it's not necessarily the end of the tournament for you all in that respect, but just know that the fact that Shakib isn't there doesn't necessarily mean it's game over for the Bangladeshis. It could go either way, as we've seen with other matches thus far.
And they've got a lot of insight in that dressing room from South Africans. So Russell Domingo, we've got
They've got good
Gibson,
coaches. We're forgetting
Curtis
that. They've got
Gibson,
really good
we've got
coaches.
Ashwell Prince as well.
Yeah, that's it. They're very incredible coaching. So they're not to be underestimated. They might be down, losing 3 on the trot, but I wouldn't necessarily underestimate them. If South Africa goes in, they need to go in hard and definitely take advantage of them in the power play, assuming we bat first.
Mm-hmm.
And I would recommend we bat first.
Yeah. I hope Boucher asks Quentin de Kock what Ashwell Prince taught him or asked him to do for the blitz, because that will obviously be the intel that he'll be giving the coach on how to stop Quinny. and hopefully they find some sort of way to counterattack Quinton de Kock. I know, what's your prediction for the match?
Well, look, when it comes to a player like Quinton de Kock or Herschel Gibbs, it's no way of coaching tactics up front, and because sometimes the way that they play the game is extremely on their ability and their feel of the game of the day itself. So it will be best to rather contain him than to counter him when it comes to Quinton de Kock or the likes of Herschel Gibbs. I suppose maybe force them into playing a fully shot. But I agree. The last time that we lost to Bangladesh in the World Cup 2019, it was largely as a result of the improved batting from the Bangladesh team under the guidance of the batting coach Neil McKenzie. Now we have the likes of Russell Domingo and Ashel Prince there. I think it's a very, very important thing to mention. What I also think is important to mention is that we shouldn't just go into this match with Bangladesh with a squad to beat them. We should go to build momentum into a playoff. And so it's not a case of us just getting a big score or this or that, but it's a case of ensuring that we can replicate the same performance with the type of team setup and mindset to win the big matches as well. I emphasize this as well because it's been the case before where we haven't succeeded, where we obliterate all the opposition until the playoffs, and then it doesn't happen in the same way we did beforehand. So I think our flexibility is the one difference that we didn't have in previous World Cups, and we should keep on being able to field different types of batting displays, but more likely our bowling needs to be more adaptable to the situations, and we shouldn't be that predictable than we were before during the previous World Cups. I think I've seen a lot of that going in that now, and it's a case where the opposition is now finally thinking, what are they going to do next? As opposed to, we know after the power play, so-and-so is coming up, we know who's going to bowl at the death, and we know what's going to happen if our spinners come up and they will be doing X, Y, Z. We will be able to get the upper hand there. It's no longer the case, and that is our strength, and I think we should build on that.
Mm-hmm. So, guys, I'm going to leave you guys with a little bit of a trivia from Abai. He just wanted to leave a trivia to you guys. He loves these type of games.
And for those interested in cricket trivia, the last time these two teams faced off, David Miller hit 5 sixes in an over off Mohammad Saifuddin, and he also scored his first international T20 century. And South Africa have beaten Bangladesh in all of their previous encounters in this format. So it looks like South Africa are overwhelmingly the favorites, but at the same time, if this game ends up being very competitive, that shouldn't be a surprise either.
So the reason Ravi he can't come on the show is because he's at work, 10 o'clock over there in America. So he wasn't able to make the show. So he sent me a couple of videos, which I respect from him. Thanks a lot, Abai, for sending in those videos as well.
Like a podcast within a podcast.
Yeah. So
I specifically decided not to go to that game. I was in Poch that day that century happened, and I was talking to my girlfriend about it, thinking maybe we should go to the cricket, but I can't remember what we ended up doing. But I remember watching Miller hit it all over the ground and like hearing it out of my window. And I'm like, what the heck did I do? Why did I decide not to go to that game?
Yeah, Miller was incredible. So we're hoping for a Miller time in this particular game. But then on the flip side, you also don't want to wish for Miller time because that means a collapse. So ultimately, you want our team to just do well from the start. Hopefully, we can get a good score from Bavuma. We can get a good score from Quinton de Kock and take that into the next game, particularly against England, because I think that's where Quinton de Kock will really come to the fore. We're going to really, really need him in that game. Okay, guys. Thanks a lot for coming on the show. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Thanks for all the fans for commenting in the live chat. Don't forget to subscribe to Cricket Fanatics Magazine monthly. It's 100% free. The link is in the description and it will be in the eye of the screen after this video is done and it's not live anymore. So go ahead and do that. You can find that eye tomorrow or you can just get the description today and get that issue straight to your inbox. We also, if you're new to this channel, there are a couple of guys that are watching the shows and not subscribing. So please click subscribe, click that notification bell for all future videos as well, because that's how you get notifications of every single show that we do. So to the guys out there, smash the like button as well. I want to see 30 likes on this particular review show. Take care, everybody. We'll see you with another review show tomorrow. So take care, everybody.